Ring Around the Rosie. It's perhaps the most iconic playground rhyme of all time. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. For decades, we've been told that this seemingly innocent nursery rhyme is actually a grim reminder of the Black Death that devastated Europe in the 14th century. The ring around the rosy supposedly referred to the red plague marks, the pocket full of posies to the flowers carried to mask the smell of death, ashes to cremation and falling down. Well, that part needs no explanation. It's a chilling interpretation that transforms a children's game into a macabre historical artifact. There's just one problem: it's completely false. The first mention connecting Ring Around the Rosie to the plague didn't appear until the mid-20th century, about 700 years after the Black Death. Historians and folklorists have thoroughly debunked this theory. The rhyme actually originated in the late 18th century, with versions found in Germany, Switzerland, and Italy before arriving in Britain in the 1880s. And England's last encounter with the bubonic plague was in 1665, more than 200 years earlier. So what was it really about? Love and dancing, believe it or not. During the 19th century, a Protestant dancing ban swept across America and England. Think of it as a very early footloose situation. But children, being children, found a clever workaround. They created what they called play parties, where they would sing rhymes while moving in circles. They insisted this wasn't dancing. After all, they were in a circle, not a square. These play parties, including Ring Around the Rosie, were about courtship and crushes. Someone would stand in the middle as the Rosie, or rose bush, symbolizing love. As teenagers moved on from these play parties, younger children kept the tradition alive, and the modern version was eventually published in Kate Greenaway's Mother Goose and the Old Nursery Rhymes. But here's where it gets truly interesting. The dark plague interpretation is itself a modern invention, an urban legend that spread faster than any medieval disease. It shows how we often retroactively assign sinister meanings to innocent traditions, perhaps because we're fascinated by the macabre. The false plague origin story has become more widely known than the actual history, demonstrating how urban legends and misinformation can become accepted as fact. In a way, that's the real dark origin, our collective desire to find horror lurking beneath innocence. But if you're disappointed that Ring Around the Rosie isn't actually about the plague, don't worry. Our next game has plenty of genuine darkness to make up for it. London Bridge is falling down. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. This classic nursery rhyme seems straightforward enough, a simple song about a bridge collapsing. But the history of London Bridge and the dark theories behind this rhyme are anything but simple. London Bridge has been destroyed and rebuilt numerous times throughout history. The first versions date back to Roman times and were made of wood. So what inspired this rhyme? There are several disturbing possibilities. Some historians believe it commemorates a Viking attack by King Olaf II of Norway in the 11th century, who allegedly destroyed the bridge during an invasion. Others point to natural disasters, a tornado in 1091 that destroyed the wooden bridge, or the Thames freezing in 1282, breaking 5 stone arches. But the darkest theory of all involves human sacrifice. Folklorist Alice Gumm suggested that the rhyme references foundation sacrifice, the practice of burying a living person in the foundations of a structure to ensure its stability. The fair lady in the rhyme, according to this theory, was the sacrificial victim. Skeletons were indeed found beneath London Bridge in 2007. Though they were in an old tomb rather than the foundations, the discovery added fuel to the human sacrifice theory. The identity of the fair lady remains a mystery, with candidates including Eleanor of Provence, Henry III's queen who mismanaged the bridge's revenue, or Matilda of Scotland, Henry I's queen who built bridges across the River Lee. The game itself evolved from this dark history. 2 children form an arch with their arms, representing the bridge. Other children pass under while singing the rhyme. At the end, the bridge collapses to capture a player, perhaps an echo of that ancient sacrificial practice. What makes this particularly unsettling is how we've transformed a possible reference to human sacrifice into a game that children play while laughing. The contrast between the cheerful children's game and the potentially dark origins shows how we sanitize history for children's entertainment. Speaking of sanitizing history, our next game has origins in something you'd never expect. Roman military training. Hopscotch hop, hop, hop. A simple game of balance and coordination that children have played for generations. Toss a marker, hop through numbered squares, retrieve your marker, and return. What could be more innocent? But hopscotch began as something far from child's play. It originated in ancient Britain during the early Roman Empire, but not as entertainment, as military training. The original hopscotch courts were over 100 feet long and used for military training exercises. Roman foot soldiers ran the course in full armor and field packs to improve their footwork, much the same way modern football players run through rows of truck tires today. Roman children observing these training exercises drew their own smaller courts in imitation of the soldiers. They added a scoring system, and hopscotch spread throughout Europe. The word London is often written at the top of hopscotch courts as a reference to the Great North Road, a 400-mile Roman road from Glasgow to London, frequently used by the Roman military for troop movements. Think about that for a moment. What children see as fun squares was once a tool to create more effective killers. The playful hopping pattern was originally designed to build soldiers' endurance and precision for battle. This transformation from war training to children's entertainment shows how dark origins can be forgotten or sanitized over time. The skills that once prepared men to conquer and kill now help children develop balance and coordination. The game has spread worldwide under different names. Marelles in France, Tempelhofen in Germany, Hinkelbaan in the Netherlands, Ikaria Ducaria in India, Pico in Vietnam, and Rayuela in Argentina. But regardless of what it's called, children everywhere are unknowingly participating in a tradition that began as preparation for warfare and conquest. Our next game also has surprising connections to something deadly, but instead of war, it's disease. Tag, tag, you're it. In its simplest form, tag is a game where one player chases others, trying to touch someone and make them it. It seems like the most basic of children's games, requiring no equipment, no setup, just the natural human instinct to chase and be chased. One of the earliest accounts of a tag-like game comes from a 2nd century Greek writer, Julius Pollux. He described a game called Ostrakinda, in which two teams stood on either side of a line. A shell was spun or tossed, and one team chased the other depending on which side of the shell turned up. But as tag evolved and spread throughout the world, it took on a much darker significance in many cultures. Over the centuries, variations of tag emerged that were influenced by the diseases that ravaged communities. In these versions, players pretended that the touch of it carried contagions such as the plague in Italy, leprosy in Madagascar, fleas in Spain, or lurgy fever in Great Britain. Think about what this means. Children were literally playing at spreading deadly diseases. The person who was it represented a disease carrier, someone to be avoided at all costs. The frantic running away mimicked the very real fear of contagion that dominated societies during epidemics. The designation of one person as it parallels the social isolation of disease carriers throughout history. When you were it, you were the outcast, the untouchable, the one everyone fled from, just as actual disease carriers were shunned and isolated. Today, tag has evolved into countless variations. British Bulldog, Sharks and Minnows, Freeze Tag, but they all maintain that core element, the fear of being touched, of being infected. So the next time you hear a child shout, "Tag, you're it," remember that they're participating in a centuries-old tradition that once helped children process their fears of very real and deadly contagions. Our next game also has surprising origins, but instead of disease, it's connected to warfare and disability. Blind man's buff. A blindfolded player spins around, disoriented, arms outstretched, trying to catch their laughing, dodging friends. Blind man's buff seems like simple fun, a test of sensory awareness and coordination. This game is ancient, played as early as 2,000 years ago in Greece. It spread throughout Europe under different names. Mosca cieca, blind fly, in Italy, blindeku, blind cow, in Germany, Blindbock, blind buck, in Sweden. Gallina ciega, blind hen, in Spain. But the French name reveals its disturbing origin. Colin Maillard. This name comes from a medieval battle story, a fight between a French lord of Louvain and a warrior named Colin. During the battle, Colin was struck and blinded, but he refused to leave the field. Instead, he continued to swing his mallet, or maille in French, blindly at his enemies, fighting on despite his disability. Think about that for a moment. When children play this game, they're unknowingly reenacting the desperate struggle of a blinded warrior on a battlefield. A man who continued to fight and kill even after losing his sight. But there's an even darker aspect to this game. Blind Man's Buff essentially makes entertainment out of disability. The blindfolded player becomes an object of amusement, stumbling around while others laugh and evade them. Throughout history, people with disabilities, including the blind, were often treated as spectacles or entertainment. This game, in a way, continues that troubling tradition, turning the serious impairment of blindness into a source of amusement. The temporary experience of blindness in the game fails to capture the true challenges of visual impairment, instead reducing it to a comedic performance for the entertainment of others. Our next game also has connections to conflict and invasion, but on a much larger scale. Red Rover. Red Rover, Red Rover, send child's name right over. In this classic playground game, two teams form lines by linking arms. They take turns calling players from the opposite team to run and try to break through their human chain. If the runner breaks through, they return to their team with a captured player. If not, they join the opposing team. The origins of Red Rover are shrouded in mystery, but there are fascinating theories. One suggests it was named after an 1828 steamboat that took passengers back and forth across the Hatchie River, much like players moving between teams. But a darker and more compelling theory connects it to ancient invasions. Some historians believe the game's name and format originated as a taunt that early English children directed at Viking invaders. The linked arms represented defensive walls or battle lines, while the runners symbolized invading forces trying to break through. The call of Red Rover may have referenced the red sails or shields of Viking ships approaching the shore. The game essentially simulates warfare, the breaking of enemy lines, the capturing of opponents, the strategic weakening of defenses. What's particularly striking is how the game teaches children to identify weak points in the opposing line, usually targeting smaller or weaker players who might not be able to hold the line. This mirrors actual battle strategy, where armies would attack the weakest point in enemy defenses. Interestingly, Red Rover has been banned in many schools in recent decades, not because of its violent origins, but because of the physical injuries it can cause. Children have suffered broken arms, dislocated shoulders, and concussions while playing. Perhaps there's a reason this game can be so dangerous. It was never meant to be just a game, but a simulation of one of humanity's most violent activities. Warfare. Our next game might seem the most innocent of all, but its origins connect to our most primal instincts. Hide and seek. Ready or not, here I come. Hide and seek is perhaps the most universal of all children's games, played in some form in virtually every culture around the world. The concept is simple. One person closes their eyes and counts while others hide, then tries to find them. The game appears to be equivalent to Apodidras Kinda, described by the 2nd century Greek writer Julius Pollux. But its origins likely stretch back much further, to the very dawn of humanity. At its core, hide and seek is an elementary hunting game. It mimics the fundamental survival skills our ancestors needed, the ability to hide from predators and the ability to track prey. When a child hides, they're practicing the same skills their distant ancestors used to avoid being eaten. When a child seeks, they're developing the tracking abilities that once meant the difference between starvation and survival. The game teaches children spatial awareness, environmental adaptation, and strategic thinking, all crucial skills for survival in prehistoric times. It's essentially a safe way to practice life or death scenarios. Different cultures have developed countless variations of the game. In Italy, it's nascondino. In Spain, escondite. In France, cache-cache. In Germany, Verstecken. In Russia, Pryatki. But regardless of what it's called, the game taps into something primal. The thrill of the hunt and the fear of being caught. There's also something inherently unsettling about hide and seek when you think about it. The tension of being hidden, hearing footsteps approach, holding your breath, afraid to make a sound. It's training for survival in a dangerous world. Our final game might seem like just a nursery rhyme, but it contains references to something far more disturbing. Goosey, goosey gander. Goosey, goosey gander, whither shall I wander? Upstairs and downstairs and in my lady's chamber. There I met an old man who wouldn't say his prayers, so I took him by his left leg and threw him down the stairs. This British nursery rhyme, with its seemingly absurd lyrics, appears innocent enough on the surface. But a closer examination reveals coded references to some very adult themes. The term goose, you see, was once slang for a sex worker in 16th century England. The gander, a male goose, referred to their customers. But there's an even darker interpretation related to religious persecution. During the Reformation in England, Catholic priests were hunted and often hidden in secret chambers or priest holes in the homes of Catholic sympathizers. The old man who wouldn't say his prayers likely refers to a Catholic priest who refused to adopt the new Protestant prayers. The violent ending, taking him by the left leg and throwing him down the stairs, reflects the brutal treatment of captured priests. The rhyme essentially celebrates religious violence and persecution, transformed into a children's game. The ladies' chamber mentioned could refer to the hidden rooms where priests were concealed. What's particularly disturbing is how the rhyme normalizes violence against those with different religious beliefs. The casual way it describes throwing someone down the stairs for refusing to pray in a certain way reflects the religious intolerance of the time. Today, most children recite this rhyme without any understanding of its dark historical context. It's another example of how disturbing historical events become sanitized through children's play. The true meaning's lost to time. We've journeyed through the surprising origins of 8 childhood games that have been passed down through generations. From military training exercises to disease simulations, from religious persecution to human sacrifice. These innocent pastimes carry echoes of humanity's darkest chapters. Which of these dark origins surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration of childhood games, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the unexpected origins of things we take for granted. Because sometimes the most innocent things have the most surprising stories to tell.